All right, so if we feel his back, he's not as bad as some of the jumpier people before, right? Have a feel of his back. See, he's not jumping every, you know, you can put a bit of pressure in there. He's not going, ooh, 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 you know? Yeah? I like to also do things like this and feel their toes and how well they move this way. And that's where I'm feeling he's a bit tight. You can see as soon as I move that big toe in particular, have a feel of that big toe and how it definitely wants to push back at us, yeah?
Pushing up, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely got a claw foot.
Right here, with that tension there.
Yeah. So he's, you know, there's that big toe, that first joint. Again, I can't emphasize over the years that I've been doing this how important this joint has come in my reckoning of releasing people. Okay, and of course we need to release the whole big toe. That's why sometimes I'll spend 2 or 3 hours on a big toe. Okay, it's incredibly important. So I then feel that we can see a bit more of the old Dave there with his kind of jumping and carrying on and stuff like that, you know? But notice there we got that nice click out of that toe. He is sort of handling, even if he sort of whinges a bit and bangs his head into the thing, he's still liking it. But if he starts to tighten up against us, that's when we know that's too much, right? So then I feel, how is the movement in his ankle? And I call it shit, really. I mean, it just doesn't fucking move. Like, it's not really. Does anybody want to give that a try? Just see. It's a great other diagnosis is how does the ankle move? He's not really got mobility in that ankle. There, he's tight here and in here. So
just let it out.
Yeah, and you can feel it back here. Yeah. So again, we can just gently feel in here. We can see how tight he is back here. Overall, he's pretty tight. Yeah. Even though his back is not as bad, this one's actually not too bad, interestingly. But the rest of him is pretty tight. So this shoulder's pretty tight. Like, I'm not going too hard in here, and we can feel how tight he is there. Yeah.
There's it here.
Yeah. So from the back, we can diagnose by just feeling the different bands coming through here, or moving the shoulder slightly. And again, we can sense he's got and the calf muscles are obviously super tight. Does anybody want to feel the back of his legs here?
Oh, Jay.
It's all right.
When you were mobilizing
Yeah.
can you be brutal with it? Is it easy to break or?
No, it's not easy to break, but it depends on how much resistance they've got.
This one is there.
So I'm very careful moving it.
Yeah.
But when I saw you, it seems like you don't care.
Oh no, that's just because I've been doing it a long time.
I'll kill you.
As a beginner, be quick. Yeah, with a healthy person.
See, that's the emotion coming out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they resist as well.
Yeah, that's right. Like for example, with
Give up, Central.
yeah, so tighten his tummy. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a mess. Yeah.
This is all your fault, by the way, everybody here.
Yeah.
Because of all that stress.
It's true.
Training courses.
It's true. You come into a course relaxed and happy, and you leave all tense and stressed out, and they're all happy and relaxed. Yeah. Okay, so let's see his other leg, and again we can see that sort of strong pulling here, like through here. I would be thinking he's going to need a lot of work just in there. He's super tight in that front of that. Can you see that? Like even through his socks, you can feel that. Yeah.
Which shoes was that, Dave? Was that your high heels that you've been wearing?
It's actually your high heels have been wearing all
So when you can see the band straight away.
Well, then you know it's tight. Yeah, when it's standing out so strongly like that. And again, we can see just by feel how his toe, when you move it like that, it's like so tight in there. Yeah. That joint in particular, right? And that's, if he leaves that, he'll get more like an arthritic kind of joint in there. Right? I've had it because I do a lot of work on my feet, and that joint almost got arthritic on me. I had to get a lot of treatment because it's always difficult. Nobody can ever do quite what you want. If I could do it on myself, I'd be all right, but it's a tricky thing to release that joint. All right, so that's what I'm picking up right here, and he's tight through here, across here, but the whole foot it just, especially this joint here, it just feels super, super bad, you know?
So Brandon, if you were to fully release like that joint, then how would that help Dave?
Oh,
Obviously,
I think it would help
but-
enormously, because this joint is involved in several different bands. So, and it can hold a lot of energy, this joint, when it's out. So it's highly likely that he would experience quite a lot of energetic movement as well. So this band can be responsible for tension in here, and that's all coming up to his head. So I would expect either a lot of energy or emotion to come out and him to then feel far more peaceful. So that's how it would affect him on a psychological level, because it's anchoring this, which to me is probably some sort of stress-related tension.
A bit emotional as well.
What's that?
I think it's a bit emotional as well.
Yeah. So I would say there's some, trapped emotion in there, and it's going to make him tired. See, the tighter a person is, usually the more tired they'll become. It restricts your chi flow and your feeling of vitality and exuberance. So that's why I would think this joint is pretty bad, yeah. And even just bending it to its natural straightness, if you see that, if that's not going forward, and feel across the top here, it's just shocking. So that's why I'm saying I would think this point here would be one of the most important points, and I'll show you with a chopstick tomorrow at the base of that nail. But I could even do it with him and just even with my thumb. But again, it's more than just a case of figuring out how much can he handle before it's too much for him. So you just work at that 8 or 9 perhaps for him. But again, I would start Dave off by working on massaging his head.
Yeah, calm him down a bit.
Calm him down, get him breathing, which is then, I think tomorrow we're going to do head and belly, just to get, so before we do the details with the chopsticks, because some of you guys it might be a bit overwhelming with otherwise. All right, so Dave would be another classic, he's another classic, and you can see it there a little bit in around that third eye, around, you can see that tension. You see that, how it's sort of tight there? So energetic congestion there. So we want to spread that out, open that up, and allow him just to be able to go into deep breathing and relax. All right, that would be my first thing. And then I would be thinking, okay, once we've got him in there, then it's a case of just working each limb. We would expect that his hands are going to be tight from massaging, right? Automatic, that's tight. Okay, he's tight in there. Yeah. Fingers don't want to, they don't pull, they're resisting, that's tight, okay? You can feel across the top of his hand here. That's very tight. The joints are tight. Okay, so I would sit down and I would do at least an hour, but possibly an hour and a half to 2 hours just on this hand. And we think that's his right hand. He's a massage therapist, So then we've got, and therefore we've got all of this kind of stuff going on. And this would have to be done on him on a regular basis. Because I think this is your arm that I worked last year. But you think about how many people has he massaged since I was here last year. Okay, a lot. So we all need it. I need my right arm worked a lot, my left also. So that would just be one session in itself probably. If we ended up releasing that completely in one session, well, we got time. If we booked him in for 2 hours, we could do more. But these feet here, they're definitely more than one session in 2 hours. I'm thinking at least 3 or 4 hours working here, just to really get in and because he's good at breathing. You can see he's definitely a green light body. He's also very stressed. You can see it's a lot going on. He's a busy man. He's got a lot of people to look after, and nobody's really looking after him. All right. Yeah. So his toes are tight there. And this foot's really not much better, right? It's really tight in here, and in here, and in here, and across the top here. Have a feel of these toes. That's coming all the way up and making them supercharged above his knees, and that's going to then create a whole lot of belly tension, which he's somewhat sensitive about, right? Would you describe that as being sensitive about your belly tension?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Otherwise you could swear. You don't like, Dave swearing too much, Actually, we like it. Quite fun getting Dave swearing, actually. All right, really tight across here. Okay, so we can think, yeah. his thumb, pretty tight stuff, you know, very tight in here. This finger doesn't really move. Oh, there, we got it. But you can feel, like, I often like to do this move where I twist the thumb this way, and then gives me a great way to just get in there. And he's very tight in there, all right? So I would say, again, this hand needs a good hour and a half to 2 hours, just, you know, go through all the detail, which I'm going to show you as we go on. But you've probably already learned a bit about the hand massage, but I'll show you even in more detail. That's what
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you may fart. Don't worry. So a lot going on. You can feel here how, have a feel just here, and you'll see how it sort of bounces back at you, right? Even if
not
it's
so much here, I've had a bit.
and it's not necessarily always on a band. Sometimes there's just a feeling of fullness in the belly that needs to be gradually let go. It's like wind. Wind can produce that, so gas. So
I've had that with clients.
you've had that on clients?
Well, they release something. and
They
I have
release,
to
yeah.
Just face that way.
That's right, yeah, just put the, you know.
That's a tendon there, was that in there?
Yeah, you can look this on the nose.
Was that in there?
Yeah, I've not got an operation there, so.
Oh, you had the operation there,
You
yeah.
got a bit of scar tissue, haven't you?
So there's quite a lot, you know, on all these different bands here, but he's also quite sensitive. That's why I would do his head first. Because of that sort of sensitivity that's a bit jumpy. Okay? But I would definitely allocate, you know, you'd want him through at least one cycle of 10 hours. You know, had a bit of everything everywhere perhaps, but he already knows what's going on anyway, so you could move him straight in. Even if I was working on a limb though, I'd do his head first. Just to calm him down, because you can see there's a lot of stress going on in his head. All right, so we get rid of that, calm that down, then do a bit of belly, and then pick a limb. It doesn't necessarily matter where you would start.
Right.
I would probably start with if he had a complaint.
Question about the 10 hours. What time frame would you want to do those 10 hours over?
If he's healthy and we're not too worried about toxins coming out, then I would do them over, say, 4 to 6 hours a week. So 2 or 3 2-hour treatments would be an ideal one when we're not worried about toxins. If he's a real green light and wants to get better, he can deal with that. That's for a more experienced person or a person really keen and healthy. Athletes and things like that too, where you're not worried because they're already processed. So as long as they can handle it, I would say that. So we're making some pretty serious progress. They're going to feel amazing. Even after 4 hours, 6 hours of massage, he's going to feel way different. So, and then within 2 weeks, then you've done 10 hours. You've done 10 hours work on it. So 2 weeks, you create
Just
this.
out every 3 or 4 days or something.
Yeah.
2-hour treatment, 2 to 3 hour treatment.
Unless the more fragile the person is, either you're going to reduce the treatment time. So instead of a 2-hour treatment, it might be an hour. You know, if you got smokers is a big red flag to me. I think Dave used to be a smoker, but you gave up quite a few years ago now. 20 years ago. So there could still be some toxins there. And, you know, with histories of whatever, alcoholism or whatever there is, there can be some still toxins. Just because somebody's given up smoking or given up taking drugs or given up, doesn't mean that the toxins are gone. So, you know, we can monitor that. We could play it around a bit, so we could sit there and even, you know, tentatively book him in for a couple, 2 hours now and 2 hours later, and then check how he's going. And if he's going, fuck, I'm really feeling a bit out of it, I'm not quite ready. We want him to be ready for the next one. And then we can gauge it. Okay, let's give you 3 days between. Let's give you 2 days. Some people might be like just 1 day. Like for me, I could handle 3 hours a day, every day. Until I'm better, usually. But then I might eventually get to a point where I go, I had enough. I haven't experienced that. I've had enough. Too much yet. Sometimes, you know, with good massage. Sometimes the spot can be sore, but I'm used to it. And I'm a tough one, it's hard to get me. But it gradually, you know? So that's the thing, you know? But with Dave, that would be my thing. I would think he needs to take some time out for himself a bit, you know? So he doesn't blow a circuit, you know, helping everybody else. Yeah, get him in for maybe 4 to 6 hours a week. And within a few weeks, we'd transform him.
Do you know when clinic is there?
And I don't think it would be anything too complicated. I think it's just a case of
Lots of tension.
lots of tension. It's not like it's a, you know, and he's pretty good at breathing. He's got a bit of head stuff kind of going on in terms of, you know, we want to calm his mind. A lot going on in his mind. Calm the mind, get him breathing, and then just let him, you know, he's been busy, is what I pick up, and we're just talking to him. I know he's busy. But we want him to calm down and just allow that rejuvenation to take place. But yeah, he's tight everywhere. So it's just a case of whichever limb. So he might say to me, oh yeah, I've had some problems with my shoulder. Well, then I might start with that to help him out, especially if it's career related. But in one sense, his feet feel more chronically tight. Like that's where there's probably some deep-seated imbalances here, which he's probably never fixed. So that could be more like emotional stuff from childhood or from when he's younger that's not come out yet, whereas his hands might be more related to his work. So if we're trying to get rid of stuff that can be from childhood, sometimes you want to allow a person to be in the right space. If he's got to teach next week, or he might not be ready to have an emotional release that's so deep-seated. So I often think it's good for a person to have a week or two, like if you're going to get rid of something that's there, and with that's my suspicion, is his feet are more chronic and deep. There's something deep-seated kind of going on in there. And if we were to do that, you'd want him to prioritize that in terms of his schedule, because he could be quite out of it, or it could be just, there's a lot of stuff that could be processed during that time for up to a week or two after, especially if he got in and really worked both of his legs. That's what I would predict. So I would want him to be virtually on holiday, especially not teaching a class, because, you know, we want him to be able to go inside of himself. You don't want people working, doing intensive stuff after you've treated them really full on, where they've got to be doing something. That you want him to be able to go inside it and just be, you know, and maybe old memories come up and whatever needs to be happen. So that's what I'd say. So when he can prioritize that time and go, I need to have some me time and not where he's expected to do something. So that would be another important consideration in whether he's ready. You know, like if he's got, I got all this shit on, I got to do this, I got to do that. And if somebody's chronically like that, that could be almost a form of workaholic as well, which is something that you got to look at. Are they being a workaholic to avoid dealing with certain things? Because, you know, some people are wanting to run on the rat race because they don't want to go in, you know, whereas other times we have to work, right? There's that balance. So we got to look at, is that a form of addiction, work, or is it just necessary, you know? Are we running away? Are we working so hard that we're avoiding dealing with things? So all those things we got to kind of figure out, and that's also up to him, all right, to figure out, because it's always that partnership model in medicine. So he's got to want to give that green light. But I think with Dave, he needs to take a week or two off and have 8 or 10 hours in that time where he's not thinking about anything else. That's what I'm picking up. Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
I'm not going to disagree with anything.
Yeah. You just got to find a therapist that you trust.
Yeah.
And it's always hard, especially if Dave's your teacher. Again, we got that dual relationship. It's very hard when you're a teacher to allow a student to work on you and feel safe, you know, or to feel that you can let go, right, of being the teacher and just go, I can feel, because the student's often nervous working on a teacher.
Yeah, it's the other way around, isn't it? It's hard for a student
to work on a teacher, yeah, because you're actually flipping the role.
Yeah.
Right? As the teacher, you're the authority and the one that knows and the one that's guiding. But when you're a patient, you're supposed to be in that role. I surrender to you as the...
People come to see me,